When it comes to China's cars, more specifically China's EV cars, the United States appears to have a lot of concerns. One of the most recent is that the cars can spy on Americans like a smartphone on wheels, apparently. People following the debate will know that a short while ago it was China's subsidies that were the problem. But they aren't subsidized. They're just very efficiently produced. Prior to that, it was the risk of forced labor, since some of the components of the batteries and the steel might have found its way onto American driveways from Xinjiang, where no evidence of forced labor whatsoever has ever been presented, but allegations persist nevertheless. Wherever you are, welcome to another of my takes on China. And now apparently there's another problem. China's manufacturing overcapacity of solar panels, lithium-ion batteries and EV cars is causing concern to the US and, according to Janet Yellen, the global market too. This is the latest reason for a new round of fears from Chinese products. Donald Trump, ever keen to see a popular move, has promised to slap a 60% tariff on them if he gets elected. But China hawk Josh Hawley has gone one step further and proposed a bill for 125% tariffs. And it's not known if these will be additional tariffs or replacements of the current 2.5% and 25% that are already cumulative. And Janet Yellen is due in China any day. This will make for a very interesting discussion for her. But about the only thing politicians in the US can agree upon is that people, if they want to buy Chinese products, must pay through the nose for them. What this is really about isn't prices, it's global positioning. The US is the world's number one economy and military power, and it wants to remain in that position. We heard this from Joe Biden when he suggested that China will not be overtaking USA on his watch. Wasn't a difficult prediction. Gina Raimondo also said no one can outcompete the US if we're playing by the same rules. And she might be right, but what the heck are the rules that she's referring to? The US already has a token 2.5% tariff on all foreign-made cars. That seems reasonable. It's protectionist, but it does help the US to maintain its own lumbering auto industry from foreign interlopers, and it's been there since the days of Japanese imports. Obama hiked tariffs on foreign tires too. As CNN explained, it cost US jobs and increased US prices. In fairness to CNN, they weren't really reporting on high prices or job losses or Obama. They were scaremongering against Trump because in the lead up to that election, Trump was talking about a 45% tariff on all Chinese goods. China had tariffs on imported cars too, but not to protect Chinese jobs. There was barely an industry at all at that time, so if any country wanted to send auto manufacturing to China, they needed to build the cars in China. The manufacturers came and the rest is history. Cars built in China were very much to the benefit of Japan, Korea, Germany, and yes, even the USA. General Motors has 4 plants and Ford has 6 in this country. The last 40 years have been hugely beneficial to these corporations, but less so for their home countries' economies. As with the politicians, Donald Trump did in 2018 what he did was not what he said he would do. He imposed a 25% tariff on a range of Chinese products, including cars. Biden kept these tariffs on, but the US-based Tax Foundation research has demonstrated that this actually did negatively affect the US economy's bottom line. There are rules, international rules, for every aspect of trade, geopolitics, and war. It's these international rules which need to be applied, but they're not. At least they're not applied fairly where the US is concerned. Therefore, China has finally done what many observers, including me, feel they should have done a long time ago. They've opened a dispute with the World Trade Organization, and the basis of the complaint isn't really about tariffs or restrictions. No, the US has placed those on, and it could be. If a 60 or 125% tariff applied, then it certainly would be. But the basis now is China's submission that the Biden administration has offered incentives under the Inflation Reduction Act to go green, and these subsidies on offer between $3,750 and $7,500 if a family uses renewable energy at home and buys an electric vehicle, according to China, are discriminatory, in that they only apply if the products are sourced from the USA or certain select regions. And while the bill specifically excludes Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran, effectively locking those four countries out of their market, it could easily be applied to any other economy the US deems adversarial in future. Unfortunately, a World Trade Organization dispute will not be the end of this matter. Given that the internationally accepted rules of the WTO have almost certainly been violated, the US will almost certainly be found in breach, and they will need to rectify the matter. But this is where the US knows they're onto a winner. They'll appeal, but they know the appeal will never be heard because there are no appellant judges in the World Trade Organization. In 2019, 2 of the 3 judges reached the end of their terms, and the US has since blocked the appointment of replacements. So once again, we see evidence that the US will use an internationally recognized system to pursue its own interests and ignore the system when facing justice for themselves. They did this, according to Reuters, because the court had, quote, given Beijing the benefit of the doubt on subsidies and rejected Washington's treatment of dumping, end of quote. In other words, the US didn't like the results when a ruling went against them. Once again, the US has provided the world with examples of unfair tariffs, discriminatory behavior, a disregard of due process, a presumption of innocence until proof of guilt. And once again, just as in the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea and the International Criminal Court and many other international conventions, agreements, and UN resolutions that the US has refused to ratify, they will get away with it because this is the world we live in right now. This is what the US likes to call a rules-based order. Thanks once again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.